Hello everyone, it's your Vice Captain speaking. Today we're going to tie the General Practitioner Fly, originally conceived by Lieutenant Colonel Esmond Dury in 1953, also known for his treble hook design. We're going to tie today on a heavy Spey hook and Alec Jackson's number 3 in gold. Our thread today will be a uni 8/0 in fire orange. And we'll tie on at the beginning of the fly and quickly lay a bed of thread down to the halfway point where our middle wing will be. I'll be using a uni French medium gold tinsel. All the tinsels in this fly are actually not visible in the end. They're purely for structural reasons, either to protect the end of the fly or to protect the hackles. So you can use wire or anything else if you prefer. So we go all the way down and put a layer of bed down for the tag. Form the tag from around about the barb of the hook up towards the point and then tie it off. The first ingredient for the tail is some boar bristle dyed in orange, and we'll cut some off the pen and remove the coarse underfur, leaving just the bristles. Quickly hand stack it, and we're ready to tie it. Tie this around about 1.5 to 2 times the length of the body. Make sure they're sitting on top. Cut off the waist to around about the midpoint again, where the middle wing is going to be. And then I'm just going to help those bristles turn up at the end, tie them in, and then I'm going to use my thumbnail just to rub up and down to help them fit. Our next ingredient is a bit of hot orange bucktail. And again, I'll take a small chunk of hair, clean out any small hairs, quickly stack the remainder by hand, and we're ready to tie in. And these should be around about the same length or slightly shorter than the borders. And again, I'm tying in from the midpoint. This is a shrimp fly, so we want to end up with a cone-shaped body running across from the back to the front of the fly. So this is all helping build the cone shape. The next ingredient is Golden Pheasant. It's a lovely red breast feather. I'm going to be using two. The original design actually had 2 feathers put against each other, concave, to actually form the head of the shrimp. The modern pattern, which only has 3 sections, usually misses this bit. But having done my research on the fly for tonight, I thought I'd have a go at the original dressing, which has 4 segments and 2 of the Golden Pheasant breast feathers separated with a bit of kip tail to actually give the head some bulk. Now this fly has been simplified over the years and ultimately been replaced by more modern, easier flies. So the next ingredient is the kip tail. We just use this to bulk out the head. Again, this material is not seen in the final fly, and it's probably why the modern dressing doesn't use it at all. So these days you don't see the General Practitioner much. It's been replaced by flies such as Ali's Shrimp or Ali's Cascade. But this is still a cracking fly and a very, very good pattern. Okay, next we're going to start using some Golden Pheasant tippet. I'm going to take a big one out of the back, I'm going to clean away the fluff, and I'm going to cut a V-section out of it. This allows us to simulate the shrimp's eyes. Now this V shape that I'm cutting out, do keep it, because it'll do for the last segment or for a smaller GP that you might want to tie later. So take the V shape and just roll it between the fingers so that they group together and they form two eye stalks, and then tie them on top of the fly. Now this fly was originally invented to be used on the Broadlands estate on the River Test. Now the River Test, there aren't many salmon these days, but in the old days there used to be. And in the early 50s they stopped allowing prawning on the River Test, and Esmond Drury is reputed to have designed this fly as a replacement. The fly then travelled over to the United States, where it inspired a whole generation of steelhead flies, even at the point where these days it's distinctly out of fashion in the UK. But I think it's a good pattern, and you should always have a few of these in your box. So there we are. You can see we finished off the head, and we're now going to start on the carapace. The first segment of the carapace is also made out of Golden Pheasant tippet. You'll see how I always line up the end bar on the tippet with the second bar from the tippeted front. Gives a nice stripy effect. Again, another GP breast feather to start to form the carapace of the shrimp. Interestingly enough, this fly wasn't originally called the General Practitioner, it was called the GP for the Golden Pheasant. But it became so popular and such widespread use. You can see there the eyes, and behind forming the head. So the fly became so popular that Esmond Drury rechristened it after a while the General Practitioner, as in being available for general use. Now this rib I'm using here, I'm using an extra small. Again, as I said earlier, all the tinsels on this fly offer structural strength. You don't see any of them. The dubbing that you tend to use on a modern fly is a spectral or bright dubbing, but here, because I'm going traditional, I'll be going with a traditional orange seal's fur in hot orange. Just neatly form the dubbing, and you can start to see that we're forming a nice cone shape here for the shrimp. The next ingredient, the main ingredient for the legs, is a hot orange saddle feather. We want one that tapers quite nicely because we want the legs to actually get smaller as we go up the body. So we'll first form a neat anchor point and tie the broad section of this feather in at the back of the fly. Now this is a relatively realistic fly in terms of the bait that it's trying to imitate, which is the northern shrimp, or Pandalus borealis, which is a very common food for salmon at sea. So make sure you trap the back of that feather in, and then use the tinsel to catch down, just wiggling it to make sure you don't catch the hair, and this helps protect the hackle and make this into a stronger fly. Tie it off. And remove the unwanted top. Now keep that top because we'll use that for the second half of the shrimp later. I use a dubbing brush, first of all to help push the legs down and to bring out a little dubbing. Tie it all down. I've got a bit sticking out there. Sometimes these, a few fibres won't do what you want, and in that case just quickly go in with the scissors and snip them off. There we are. Okay, we're now ready to form the second segment of the body, starting again with the tippet and then the GP breast feather. Lay it nicely on the top. Now sometimes you find that it kicks up or it won't quite sit properly. That's okay, just tie it in and then use your thumb to help groove the feather and push it down. Now, when the Pandalis borealis shrimp comes into its breeding season, it swims up from the huge depths of the ocean floor where it usually lives to near the surface of the water and floats around. And it's at this point that it becomes predated by salmon, who are used to seeing these shrimps on the surface breeding. And this fly should therefore be swimmed slow and near the surface. Our next ingredient is another tinsel. I'm using XS Gold Oval Medium. Again, none of the tinsels on this fly are seen. They're purely used to protect the hackle. So quickly tied in, the wire is just as good. While I make this last body segment, let's just talk a little bit about Lieutenant Colonel Robert Esmond Hill Drury, who invented this fly. He was actually a tank commander in the Second World War, and he was actually in the 1st Scorpion Regiment. He won the Military Cross in 1942 and the Distinguished Service Order in 1943. And he then went on to be quite well known fishing on the Test on the Broadlands estate. So that's formed the second part of the body. Now this feather is the top half of the one that we used earlier on. It's quite important because we're trying to get the legs to taper as we come down the fly. So I'll go round once at the beginning, then palm my way up, and then go once away around the body at the end, then lift it up, and then use the tinsel to catch it in, and then wiggle the tinsel through the hackle to actually hold the hackle down and give it some structural strength. One of the interesting things about the shrimp that this imitates, the Pandalis borealis, is that they are in fact hermaphrodite. They have both male and female sex organs, and they're originally male until they grow to about 3 years old. or when they spawn for the first time as males. And after that first spawning, they turn female, and they're female for the rest of their lives. So the females are always bigger and older in this species. So they're just starting to form the last body segment, the last tippet goes in, and then the last golden pheasant breast feather for the final section of the carapace. Every time I tie him onto these carapace feathers, it's reaching over and longer than the tippet that I've just tied in. Time to form a neat head. If you get a wispy stray, just use a pair of tweezers and pull it out. And then you can finish tying a neat head. You can also use a cauterizing tool, but you need to make sure that you don't burn the thread. Time to put in a couple of whip finishes. One of the interesting things is to see how this bushy fly swims. So as a bonus at the end of this, I'll show you what this fly looks like swimming in the tank. So you'll see this is the original Esmond Drury tying. It's got 4 sections rather than 3, with the first 2 slightly separated to make it look like the head. So let's just primp its legs. And thanks very much for watching. This is Stuart Bladen, your Vice Captain at Prettyflies.com. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please follow me on Facebook or YouTube at Prettyflies UK. And just to make the point about the 4 segments, there's the head of the shrimp and there's its body. Tight lines everyone, and thanks for watching.